Whispers of the Orisha by Dr. J. Manuel Hodge. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on the golden sands as Ajay Ifa walked barefoot along the shoreline. She carried her divination bag slung over her shoulder, the weight of the cowrie shells and opal chain familiar yet grounding. The ocean's rhythm, the crashing waves, the hiss of retreating foam had always called to her. Today, though, the call felt different, insistent. Ajay Ifa was an Ifa practitioner, a daughter of Yeminya, the Orisha of the sea and motherhood. Her life was a dance of devotion, divination, rituals, and guiding others along their path. But recently, her own path had felt clouded. She had prayed, offered sacrifices, and cast her shells, yet clarity evaded her. Was she losing favor with the Orisha? Had she misinterpreted the signs? She stopped at a quiet stretch of beach and set down her bag. The wind tugged at her gili, loosening a strand of locks that she tucked back absent-mindedly. Kneeling in the sand, she opened her bag and retrieved the cowrie shells, cradling them in her palm. "Yeminya," she whispered, her voice nearly drowned by the waves. "I come seeking guidance. Please, show me what I cannot see." She cast the shells, their clatter sharp against the soft hiss of the ocean. She leaned over to read their pattern, but before she could discern the message, a wave rushed up unexpectedly, washing over the shells and scattering them. Ajay Ifa gasped, scrambling to retrieve the shells before they were swept away. "No!" she cried, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Why would you do this?" As she gathered the last shell, a small laugh broke through her irritation. She turned to see an elderly fisherman sitting nearby, mending a net. His skin was dark and withered, his eyes bright with a knowing light. "You speak to the ocean like it's your child," he said, his voice deep and melodic. Ajay Ifa bristled, but kept her tone respectful. "I was speaking to the Yeminya, the Orisha of the waters." The man nodded, setting down his net. "And yet, you expect her to answer in the way you want?" He gestured to the waves. "The ocean doesn't give answers. It offers wisdom, but you must listen." Ajay Ifa frowned, clutching the shells tighter. "I have listened. I've prayed. I cast divinations, made offerings. Still, I find no clarity." The fisherman chuckled, shaking his head. "You ask for clarity, but you fear the waves that scatter your shells? Yemenya doesn't fear the waves. She is the waves." Ajay Ifa stared at him, his words settling over her like a soft mist. "What are you saying?" He stood, brushing sand from his knees, and pointed to the horizon where the sun was dripping into the ocean. "When the ocean pulls the sand away, it is not taken, it's reshaping. Sometimes, to understand, you must let go of the patterns you hold so tightly." As the fisherman walked away, his net slung over his shoulder, Ajay Ifa turned back to the water. She looked at the shells in her hands, their smooth surfaces glinting in the fading sunlight. Slowly, she waded into the shallows, feeling the cool water lap over her feet. Instead of casting the shells again, she closed her eyes and let them fall into her. She stayed still, listening, not to the ocean's sound, but to its rhythm, its presence. In that silence, she felt something stir within her, a deep, unspoken understanding. Yeminya wasn't withholding answers. She was teaching Ajaifa to trust the flow. When Ajaifa opened her eyes, the sun had disappeared, leaving a sky streaked with stars. She smiled, the heaviness in her chest replaced by a sense of peace. Clarity wasn't something to demand, it was something to receive. Like the tides, inevitable, yet unpredictable. Ajaifa turned back towards the shore, her heart lighter, her spirit renewed. Yeminya had spoken, not in words or patterns, but in the wisdom of the waves.